Welcome to my YouTube channel, Active Travels. I'm Patrick, and over the years I've done a lot of traveling, camping, hiking, and I figured I might as well start recording it and putting it up on YouTube. So let's get into it. I'm at South Mountain State Park in North Carolina. It's about an hour and a half west of Charlotte. I plan to do some hiking, backcountry camping. Okay, so here's the plan. I'm at the family campground right about here. Hike up just a little bit up the road to the beginning of the Little River Trail. We're gonna come up here to the Sawtooth, and then tonight we'll camp at the Sawtooth Campground. Tomorrow we'll go back out onto the Sawtooth Trail, come up here all the way to the Horseridge Trail, follow that down, and then eventually it becomes the Lower CC Trail. We'll follow that all the way to the Murray Branch campsite. So that distance is probably about 6 or 7 miles, not too bad for tomorrow. Then we'll continue on the Lower CC Trail to the Bend Knob Trail, following it on to the Raven Rock Trail, all the way in until we get back to the family campground. And that portion of the hike is probably going to be about 13 to 14 miles, so it should be a good one. I've now hiked about 1.5 miles and I'm at the Little River Backcountry Campsite. There's 4 campgrounds at this location, and this is one of them. Made it to the first stream. It's actually a pretty good water source here. I'm a little impressed, so it's definitely soothed my fears about water throughout this trip. So in previous hiking trips, I've always used either some sort of drops, or in many cases when there's very clean water, I'll just take water directly out of the stream. However, because of where we are in North Carolina, there's a lot of sediment, and so I actually picked up a water filter, an actual squeeze water filtration device, a Sawyer squeeze. So this will be a learning experience for me using it. Of course, as soon as I can find it in here. It's always at the bottom. This is only the second time I've used my head mount for my GoPro, and everything was out of frame. You'll see briefly the Sawyer squeeze at the bottom, but you really can't see the struggle of me using the Sawyer squeeze for the first time. Okay, so this is the Little River on the Sawtooth Trail. This might actually be the closest water source on the trail. Now, it may be possible to get to this river. It's a good thing my shoes are a little bit waterproof from the campground. So we'll see. I think this is probably about 0.8 miles from the campground. So it is a little bit of a hike if I do need to get water a little bit later tonight, especially if I'm going to cook, which I think I will. Yeah, should be to the campground shortly. Okay, I made it to the Sawtooth Campground. I popped down to where the water was, and I figured, oh, I'll just have dinner here. So I got that going in the background over here. I got my Sawyer squeeze working behind the camera. There's nothing too spectacular for dinner tonight. It's just gonna be some ramen with some tuna in it. I know that might sound disgusting, but hey, sometimes trail food, that's what you got to do to get that protein. When I get back up to the campground, I'll give you a little look around. So as far as the campground is concerned, there's 4 other people staying there tonight. There's 1 guy, and then there's 3 ladies. It's pretty much just an open field, but you'll see it when we get back up there. But this is actually really nice here. I'm just hang out here all evening until I need to go back up and set up my tent. Good morning. It's day 2. I'm just kind of hanging out in the tent right now. It's sprinkling a little bit. Based on the weather report that I looked at before leaving, it should ease up maybe in an hour and a half. If it goes too long, I'm just going to have to suck it up, and I'll get a little wet. It's also been a little bit windy. So after dinner, came back to the camp, finished setting up. Regardless, before I leave, I'll give a little tour like I'd mentioned last night. It's pretty open, and I just didn't really feel like filming it anyone else in the camp. Like I said, there's 4 other people here. As far as last night is concerned, it was a full moon, so it was pretty bright, and you may be able to hear it now, but there are a lot of birds chirping, and it was actually even a lot louder. Some of the birds have quieted down already this morning. So yeah, today it should only be about 7 miles of hiking to the next campground. Okay, here's the tour of the Sawtooth Campground. This is my spot right here. You can kind of see in the background one of the other campsites. That's where the 3 ladies stayed. Spinning around here, you can start to see the outhouse, and just to the right of it, it's kind of, you won't be able to see it in this shot, there is a food box. As we continue around further, you'll be able to see the 3rd campground. The gentleman that was staying there has already packed up for the morning, and if you go beyond, you look beyond that campsite, is the trail to the water that I was at last night, the little stream. It's about 1,000 feet from the campground down a hill. Okay, I've made it back to the Sawtooth Trail from the campground. It's about a 1/4 mile on a spur trail. It's around, well, a little after 9 o'clock. So the rain didn't last as long as anticipated, which is kind of a good thing. But I still will have plenty of time to make it to the Murray Branch campground. So it's kind of nice that it rained in some ways, but also bad in others. There should be a good supply of water along the trail, although it probably will have a lot of debris in it. And of course, if it warms up, it's going to become very humid, and it's just always fun. I'm on the Sawtooth Trail, and I see a sign for the Chestnut Knob Overlook. It's only 4/10 of a mile, so I figured I'll just knock this out really quick. And here's the Chestnut Knob Overlook. Okay, I made it to the Horseridge Trail. It's around 10:45, so I'm actually doing better on my time than anticipated, considering that based on the sign, the lower CC trail is only 2.4 miles away. And then from there on the lower CC trail, it's only about another mile and a half. Okay, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I've done a lot of traveling, camping, and hiking. I figured I'd give you a little bit of a highlights of some of the stuff that I've done. So I've been to 28 states in 5 countries. I've been to 4 of the largest cities in the US, including New York, Chicago, LA, and Philadelphia. I've also been to Houston, but it was only land at the airport, pick up a rental car, and then drive to Louisiana, which is a story in and of itself. The longest hike I've ever done is just under 100 miles on the Appalachian Trail between Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, and Boiling Springs, Pennsylvania. Took about 7 days. The single longest hike that I've done in a day is 20 miles, also on the Appalachian Trail. The most elevation gain that I've ever done is 3,200 feet in the William O. Douglas Wilderness area in Washington. Also on that same hike, I made it to the highest elevation that I've ever been. It was around 7,500 feet on an unnamed peak near Mount Axe or Mount Axe. Of course, I actually had to go back and do some digging through photos and messages to figure out where exactly that hike had been. So this is part of the reason that I want to start videoing my travels so that I can look back at it relatively quickly. Well, good afternoon. I'm still on the Horseridge Trail. Just happened to come across a little picnic bench, so I figured I'd stop and have a little snack. I'm just having some dried mangoes. I suspect I'm fairly close to the Fox Trail, which will be the next big milestone, I guess, if you will, and then it shouldn't be too much farther after that. Overall, the views on this portion of the trail have been pretty amazing. Just the rolling hills. Really, there's not a lot of structures, which is what I like. I like it. I do have cell service though, so that's interesting. So yeah, I'll probably be here another 5 more minutes and we'll just hit on the trail right here. Alright, I made it to the Murray Branch campsite. There's only 2 sites in this location. I know the other one is reserved tonight just based on looking at the reservations online. Since the other person not here, I can show you around. So this is my campsite, and believe it or not, I'm right next to the water source. It's a small one, but you know, it's something. And then over there we got the outhouse, and a little bit over to the side you got a food box. Nice little campground. All right, so it's getting to be that time for dinner. I'm gonna have no rice sides, some Spanish rice, and then somewhere in there there's also some pepperoni. Go ahead and have that for protein. Let me just get my stove burner. There we go. Now I will say that all of a sudden the bugs have come out, and now that I think about it, being so close to the water might not be a good idea after all. Okay, so I forgot my matches and I had to dig around for a few minutes to locate them. All right, let's get me some water here. Actually, that's not a good spot to get water. I'm gonna get my foot wet. Yeah. Yeah, it looks decent. I don't think I'm gonna need this much water to cook the rice. In fact, I think it'll be all right. Dump a little bit out. Can always use the filtered water. All right. Ooh. Alrighty. Probably not the smartest idea to be putting your head directly over the flame. But I got this nice little camp chair setup that I got going on here. So I mean, this might be enough rice that I don't need any of that protein, but we'll see. Might be a little later night snack. Grab my spoon really quick. Alright, finished up my Spanish rice. Just kind of letting it cool down a little bit. So, as far as this afternoon is gone, I got to the campground around 1:30. And then pretty much the rest of the afternoon I just hung out, laid back. I did walk back up to the trailhead. There was kind of some thought process about me going to hiking back to the Fox Trail campground. This one, the Murray Branch and the Fox Trail, are I think some of the remotest backcountry campgrounds. I think this one, just to get to the nearest parking lot, is 4.9 miles. However, the route that I'm going to take tomorrow is a lot more than that. So I'm kind of surprised that the other person that's camping here tonight hasn't shown up yet. So it has been kind of nice just to kind of relax. I've been able to use my GoPro, film all this stuff kind of in peace. So yeah, finish this up. Might do a little bit more walking around. I've been kind of walking along this creek bed. It starts out pretty close. The spring is pretty close to where this campsite is, but there is still a good flow of water. So good morning. It's the final day of my hike, and so far this morning I've just been getting breakfast ready. It's a Mountain House, biscuits and gravy. I love this stuff. No one else stayed at the campground last night, so I kind of had it all to myself. It's kind of peaceful, although there were some wolves howling, I think, but they were pretty far off, and I think there were some other animals. So I ended up waking up about 4 times. I didn't get as good of a sleep as I would like. Now, I had mentioned that I believe the hike today was going to be about 13 to 14 miles. After looking at the map again and just kind of reading some of the signs, I think it's going to be closer to maybe 9 or 10 miles. It's kind of hard to tell just based on the map, because the trail will continue, but the name of the trail will change. So kind of predicting how many miles, plus, you know, I turn off different trails, and then the campgrounds are in the middle of one section of the trail. But should be fairly easy at the beginning on the Bend Knob Trail, and then we'll start picking up on the Raven Rock Trail. So let's get into it. Okay, it's 8:15. I just finished breakfast, cleaned up camp, doing one last look around to make sure that I didn't leave anything. There's no trash left behind, and I don't see anything, so that's good. All right, we're getting into it now. As you've seen in some of my clips on the trails, it looks like some of them are actually roads, and you are correct to think that. This is a kind of a service road that acts as a trail and a horse trail at the same time. The reason for this one, I believe, is that we're about to enter into North Carolina game lands, and that is also the reason for this fence right here, because there's actually a road that comes in back over there. I've been hiking on the lower CCC trail, and now I'm about to get on to the Bend Knob Trail. Okay, I went up a little service road. I believe I'm on Bend Knob. I think it's the highest point in the park. I think at 2,900 feet, something like that. Mostly what's up here is just a antenna tower. I don't think it's intended for people to actually hike up here. So you're probably thinking, what is going on right here? So I'm still on the trail, but what we have is on this side of this road is the park, and over on this side is private property. This road abruptly started maybe half a mile ago, maybe a little bit more, and I have to say that it's a pretty well maintained road for such back country. I mean, even the side road here it's got dotted lines and everything. Telephone pole. But anyways, I'm gonna probably stop up here for a few moments and have some lunch, or at least a snack. So as abruptly as this road had started, it's now ending, and we're back onto the trail. There were a few houses along the road, a few roads that led off that one. There was even a car that drove by, a little Honda, an older gentleman. I'd have to say that it was one of the more unique hiking experiences that I've had. The one that beats it out, of course, was hiking through a cornfield on the Appalachian Trail. Okay, another little update. I'm at the junction to the Saddleback Trail. And it's about maybe 4 miles back to where my car is parked. Okay, so I got in such the groove of hiking and following signs that I didn't even realize where I was until all of a sudden I was crossing a bridge and I realized that I was back at the trailhead. So I'm going to give a little bit bigger update here in a few minutes once I get all my stuff downloaded. Then I'm going to come down here by the river. As part of my plan for my trip out here to South Mountain State Park was to stay the night in the campground. That way tonight I didn't have to rush home or try to rush to do any of the side trails. Now I've just been hanging out here at the Jacobs Fort River. I haven't been doing a lot of hiking recently, so my legs aren't in the best shape to do as much hiking as I typically would do. I think over the 3 days I only did about 20 miles, which is low for me. So I probably will hit up some of the side trails in the morning, specifically the High Shores Trail, and see the waterfall. Now I've already checked into my campground, set up all my stuff, and like I said, I've just been hanging out here for the last couple of hours by the river. As far as the hike is concerned, like I said, it was very many miles. The weather was okay. It was a little hot during the daytimes. It wasn't too bad at night. My only real complaint about it is it's overcast now. Why couldn't it have been overcast this afternoon when I was hiking, especially when I was on the paved portion of the trail? As far as South Mountain is concerned, just the park in general, it's the largest park in North Carolina, but as far as state parks are concerned, it's probably one of the least developed state parks that I've seen. There's not a lot of parking spots. There's only 18 spots in the campground. But I mean, when you combine that with the 7 backcountry campgrounds, I mean, it does add up a little bit, but still, like, it's not like anything you would see when I'm used to in Oregon and Washington, where there's campgrounds that range into the hundreds of spots. But it is nice, since it isn't so developed, there isn't as many people here. They were having to kind of stop and go, let people into the park this afternoon. It is a holiday weekend and it's only April, so I can only imagine what it's like in the summertime. But stick around, there's still a little bit more that I'm going to do here at the state park. Good morning. Let's just get straight into it. It's been raining, and it has been since 9 o'clock last night. I drove up to the visitor center. They have Wi-Fi. I checked the weather report. It's supposed to continue to rain until almost 1 o'clock. So I have a limited number of wet weather gear, and I did test the waters a little bit to see if I could do any hiking in this, and it's just not going to happen. So at this point, I'm just going to have to head home and end the trip earlier than I would have liked to. I'm going to leave you with one final shot of the Jacobs Fork River. Thank you for watching.